Welcome to the Baal Shem Tov Koil in Sfas, Israel. And today I want to speak about kind of the human potential. So what's interesting about human potential is that we're actually very, very small. The funny thing about people is that people think they're big, they think they're powerful. This lady, very special woman, wonder how she's doing. Should find out. But basically, Mrs. Reed, no, not Mrs. Reed, Ham Reed's mother. The name is slipping my mind. What's her name? Mrs. Lapine. She's a Jewish woman with intelligence, read history her whole life. So she said, people think they're powerful. So they're a bunch of babies. Anything go wrong, they'll start crying. You look at even a bully. This guy was talking with a bully. He's chasing, turning around. The other guy pulls out a knife. He'll run like a, he's not such a powerful guy. Even these countries, guys like Putin, so powerful. Turning around, he'll, he took the president, of Egypt. These big dictators, they're busy killing people. In 1 second, they can be the hunter can turn into the hunted, and they can you don't get Saddam Hussein ended up in a pike.
No, they put him in a cage.
Oh yeah, that's what they do with this Arab sick people. They love humiliating people. It's a sick thing to do. But be that as it may, I think he actually eventually cut out because of the new government. He made it kind of thing. But certainly, I mean, you look at how Saddam Hussein died. This guy al-Baghdadi kind of ended the caliphate. Like Trump said, he died like a dog. And they were just because a bully is not somebody with real power. People that have illusions of grandeur are not there. It's a big cover up of their insecurity. And in fact, the people that are usually humble, I like to say that a knight in shining armor doesn't show that a person is strong, it shows that he's afraid. So that's really, the more armor a person has, it's really the more fear they have, because the person is really feeling comfortable, which is not always the case. We mentioned the KGB called American Unfrightened Fools. Sometimes it's good to have some armor, and it's good to, that's really the whole idea of Yiddishkeit, the idea of chesed and gvura. There's a time. That's really what it really boils down to, is that it boils down to, a mixture between the mind and the emotions. The emotions are going to feel in a certain way, and the mind has to regulate those concepts. It's funny because, I think in Buddhism, a lot of people are into it today. They speak a lot about how your mind is not you, your mind is your. But the truth is, it's a very silly thing to say, because your mind is the closest thing you're ever going to get to you. Right? What do you mean? What are you saying? It's like trying to say, oh, detach, detach. And then to the point of life is not detaching from life. We said this before, that in the secular ideologies, it's all about escapism. And whether it's, Buddhism and these things, effectively, it all boils down to just trying to escape suffering. But escaping suffering is not fixing the problem. It's just running away from the problem. And everything, whether it's drugs, whether it's escapism, in many different forms, none of it is fixing the problem. It's just running away from the problem. And so the solution to the problem is actually quite simple, and that is to see oneself as an agent of Hashem. And that's really the key. We spoke about this yesterday, that everyone and everything in the universe is an agent of Hashem and has a unique mission in Hashem's world. So the trees, without the trees, we wouldn't have oxygen. So they are agents of God. Without the bees, we wouldn't have trees. Without the sun, we wouldn't have trees. We wouldn't have heat. We wouldn't have light. We wouldn't have warmth. Without, gravity, without the earth, we wouldn't have a place to stand. Everything has a purpose in the grand scheme of reality. And without each and every human being, the world would be deficient. Certainly there's this attack on womanhood, basically. What makes a woman is having children. That makes a woman a woman. Now, it doesn't mean a woman that doesn't have children is less of a human being. But certainly, if you have I don't know, somebody that's lame, God forbid, a male or a male that can't have children, it's certainly a deficiency. It's not a equal benefit to humanity, because God forbid if everybody didn't do that in one generation, there'd be no war. So it's obvious that what makes a woman primarily is this gift, the gift to bear children and to have children. Not only that, her whole biology and psychology and mind has been created in such a way that she can do it, and men really can't do it. They have this capacity to nurture. Women can be. I remember when my wife went away for 2 weeks, and she had left food in the fridge, and I took the kids out for supper. 2 weeks later, I was ready to commit suicide. I just couldn't handle it. It was just so much pressure. And yet, women every single day around the world are able to handle it, because Hashem gave them minds and emotions and abilities to be able to handle it. It's a very difficult thing to do, to constantly be taking care of children, raising them, having this nurturing capacity to them. You really have to have an amazing mind. And it's a gift. It's a true gift. And as the Rebbe says, that when God gives you a gift and you use it, you feel good. So on the contrary, the women that have many children, you see it, generally they feel very proud of themselves. They've really contributed. People like to know that they're using their talents. And that's one of the most important things in life, is discovering your innate potential talents. Like there's a guy, really one of the most amazing artists I've ever seen, a young boy, he's in yeshiva here. So I said to him the other day, so what are you doing with your talent? He's like, I don't know, whatever. I was like, okay, well, make an image of the Beis Hamikdash, do something. Actually, I'm looking for like a blueprint. I don't know if you know of a blueprint of the Beis Hamikdash I need. But maybe I can ask this guy. But in any event, the point is that we, like the Rebbe says about art, and it's interesting because sometimes people will, like religiously, they'll separate between the holy and the profane, and everything here is holy, everything outside of that is profane. But the Rebbe's view of reality is that, which is the truth, which is that Hashem made everything. And every single thing that's made has a positive or a negative potential. And the key is using it in the positive. So art can be used to, like this guy, he made a beautiful image of the Rizal's caver, but he did it without any other kvarim around, like as it would have looked, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago, if there was nothing there. It's like it's very like serene. So the Rebbe says the gift of an artist is to be able to show an image and show an emotion that the average person wouldn't see. Like, okay, I'm looking at a tree, but a good artist should be able to make a tree that will evoke a certain feeling that I, with my naked eye, don't sense when I see that tree. And the artist that, the famous picture of the Kafis and everybody's dancing. So the artist has this gift of being a sensitive soul, being able to see something sensitive, bring something out that the other person may not see. And so we all have various different gifts and talents that we have to use, and the world needs. The person that's good at medicine, certain people have been gifted in that field. The world needs people that can direct people in medicine. The world needs people that can direct people, certainly rabbis that direct people in terms of what's right and what's wrong, etc. So the world needs each and every person and each and everything in the world. There's no question about it. So, in effect, life boils down to a principle, and the principle is that, I remember I was sitting on the plane once. She was not spiritual. She couldn't say she was very religious, but a young girl, and she was becoming a doctor. She's very bright, and she gave me a good line. She says, "Don't forget you're a creation." In other words, you can forget that this whole thing is a creation. It's not. It doesn't exist. It's just being created as we speak. The trees, everything is being created. Somebody gave me a very, very profound line yesterday. It said like this: everything is like built on the building blocks of the thing that's under it. So in the beginning, there's kind of time. That's building block number one. And then from time, Hashem makes space, because you can't have space without time, because space is basically expansion of time, because it takes this amount of time to get from here to there. And then in that space-time, Hashem created Koyach Yuli, a little bit of energy, and that energy becomes the energy of all atoms. Now all atoms, all matter is actually the size of a single electron, which is unbelievable. And then Hashem makes out of that, he makes the world. Now, out of the very physicality of the world, the dirt, the water, he makes the plants, he makes the trees, he makes the animals, he makes the birds, and he makes the human. And then basically what happens is all the stuff on a natural level kind of cycles. So the mist turns to water, which turns to rain, and the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, everything is mixing with each other. The food, obviously, you're going, and even manure, everything begins to go in these cyclical patterns, and these patterns, they keep the system going, except for one thing. So that is the human being. Because the human being, everything else in nature is just a cycle, except for the human being. Because the human being, and really it's just the spirit of the human being. Because, okay, we have nice houses, but there were nice houses yesterday. There were, food. It's not like you can't physically, also, ultimately, it's just a cycle. But spiritually is where we have truly infinite growth. And the things that really changed the world were ideas. So you have the idea of Avraham Avinu, the idea of personal responsibility, of ethics, of goodness and kindness. That's a radical shift away from a world of selfishness to a world of selflessness and goodness and ethics and morality and personal responsibility. And then you have even more radical ideas, which is this idea from the Rebbe, which is a very beautiful idea, which is that the whole story is one story. Every single thing is playing a part. History is his story. Every single thing is playing a part in Hashem's story. And therefore, the key thing then of redemption is to play your part as good as you can. Because if you play your part as good as you can, then you can be, in a way, every single person has within him the neshama of Mashiach. Mashiach is salvation. And by playing your part, you're going to save other people. You're going to help other people. You're going to impact other people. So first of all, through reaching out to other people, and other people see a person as a role model. As the Rebbe says, when a person sees somebody that is a model of the behavior that they're trying to demonstrate, so it's much more powerful. A guy who's not religious says, Jews should keep their religion. Okay, yeah, but what about you? But if somebody who is religious says, you should keep the religion, well, there's a very powerful model there. Maybe I should keep the religion today. That's why Chabad is really so successful. Not because they don't have beards, but because they have beards. So people look at them and they say, well, these guys are authentic. They're real, right? So why should I listen to my conservative rabbi who's not keeping kosher telling me about Judaism? What kind of a Judaism is that? But if a guy sees a guy that is real and is genuine, they says, okay, maybe I should do that too. So the ability to impact people is very, very strong. And we see it very clearly, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Yidden have become Baalei Teshuva. So the neshama, people's soul, people are waiting. The truth of Hashem is very much the desire of every human being. A Gentile as well has a soul. They want Hashem. They want the truth. And therefore the world is seeking to live. Everybody wants to live. It's their ultimate mission, their purpose in life. I said this before, that there was this this rabbi who wrote a book, I think, 8 Paths to Purpose. His name is Rabbi Tuvia Teldin. And unfortunately, he lost a son, so it was very difficult. He said he had to relearn Judaism. And basically what he discovered is the idea of sometimes it's not that you find a purpose in life, but rather the purpose in life found you. In other words, we're all creations of Hashem, and we're all created with a specific role and purpose. And ironically, you can see from evil how good, because evil is just the opposite of good. So what the evil in the world today, apart from the crazy Islamic, people like Iran who just want to blow up the world, but the evil in the world, and it's crazy that places like Russia are partnering with people that just want to blow them up. I mean, just insanity. That's where hatred is so self-destructive, because if they had any common sense, because Iran hates the whole Christian world. And to them, Russia is just a useful fool. That's all it is. They would blow up Russia in a second. And our country giving them access, giving them connections is just ridiculous. And Saudi Arabia also, they're fools. Because they would, the Shiites and the Sunnis hate each other. Maybe it's a little bit Shiitic if these guys can get together. I don't know. But at the end of the day, anybody that partners with somebody that has a radical ideology blowing up the world and helps them out is just an idiot. But it looks like either their fear or their hatred is just more than their common sense. But the sum total of the truth is that you could, I would say that perhaps the greatest of today is not even a liberal philosophy, it's a radical philosophy where they're trying to say men are women and this and that and all this kind of garbage. But in a way you can see that goodness and evil are opposite, polar opposites. So what is goodness? Goodness is the idea of personal responsibility. And that's really the whole trick. That's the whole secret of life, is that what the left is really trying to say is that I'm not responsible. They try and bizarrely what they then try to do is they try to appoint somebody. Right now you have a half brain dead president of the United States. He's the one that's going to save you. I mean, the guy can't even walk to straight line, right? And then never mind Obama, previous president that gave billions of dollars to terrorists, the guy that's literally killing you. So, in other words, because it doesn't work, because you're trying to take off personal responsibility, but then you want somebody to take responsibility for you. But why should he take responsibility for you? You're not taking responsibility for yourself. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. If there is no such thing as personal responsibility, then he's not going to be personally responsible for you either. So the exact opposite is a lady, very, very bright woman, Oxford graduate. She went against this whole woke thing. It's like, this whole thing is like against personal responsibility. She says, but then I became a mother. She says, no such thing as not having personal. Your child is 2 a.m. She's crying. She wants milk. What are you? You're not responsible. What are you going to go off and play in the sandcastles now? It's no responsibility in the country. Responsibility, first of all, makes us feel good about ourselves. The concept of work, for example, makes somebody feel good. First of all, you did a job for somebody. You did a job professionally. You're proud of yourself. And second of all, you have a situation where you earn money for your family. You feel good about what you do. And that's why King Solomon speaks about it. He says, Lechem, about the righteous woman, the whole home, if you think about it, how busy she is. Why? Because a woman, and by nature, a woman wants to be busy. She wants to take care of her family. She wants to raise her children. She wants to help her husband because that makes her feel good. That's her purpose. And that's where she's feeling a sense of accomplishment. We all need that sense of accomplishment. So ironically, what the left is running away from, which is personal responsibility, is exact opposite of what makes people happy, because it doesn't make you happy to do nothing in life. It's like this guy told me, a very bright guy. Anyway, this kid, he kind of from a bad family, went off and whatever the story was, maybe he said, oh, I'm happy, I'm in Tel Aviv, I'm in bars, I'm doing nothing. This guy says it's not possible for somebody to be happy when they're doing nothing. It just doesn't work. And that's why everybody's going to become religious, because you can't be happy by doing nothing. And on the contrary, you can only be happy through achieving. So it's true that a person won't be happy through working for no reason. It's true. If you're doing a job just because society wants you to be famous or everybody has, it's a very interesting thing. There's a field of psychology which is all about this idea that people choose their ego as the leader. So a guy like Obama, who is he? He's a nothing, but he had a big ego. So ironically, the left, that also don't have anything, because I taught at university, I was in that space, they're literally nothing. It's just the ego, and even their brains their philosophies are ridiculous, but their egos are not. Their egos are, thank God, very healthy. I remember when I went in and, this professor was showing me, around this and that. So I was a lecturer of linguistics. I had my own little desk in the, linguistics department. So he showed him. So his first comment was in his office, it doesn't have a window. It's like, I care if your office has a window. As Professor Henry Kissinger, he was a professor at Harvard, said that the fights between the professors were so fierce because the stakes were so small, right? world statesmen. People can sit down and talk like a bench, but they're like babies. These guys, these professors argue like little babies about stupid things because really they're not in a real world dealing with real things. That's not to take away that there are some people there that are good. And obviously, I think the hard sciences, the factual sciences are important. Obviously, you need a doctor, you need a lawyer, whatever it is. But the philosophical, the garbage studies that one guy gets a PhD because he wrote a book that nobody knows about, and then he gets a PhD because people that wrote a book that no one knows about say that you're a doctor. I mean, the whole system is just ridiculous. And then you get paid for life if you've been there for 9 years. It's a revolving door of its own. Really, all you can say it is it's ego. That's all it is. It has no basis in reality, in psychology. It has no basis. I mean, even the millions of hours of study of psychology, and all the studies show that it's all garbage. None of it works, and none of it matters. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. So what does it boil down to? It boils down to that this idea is that running away from responsibility doesn't make you happy. It's on the contrary. And this is what Yiddishkeit gives us. And Hashem says, no, I recognize you. You are a very, very responsible person. You are the person that Hashem says you can conquer this world. You can make the world a better place. So it's true if a person is doing something just because their system, they like I was saying, this psychiatrist does a lot of research, very bright guy. So, they appointed somebody that all he had was an ego. But what did he have? Nothing else. And so they're appointing people that represent them in a way. What do they represent? They're also irresponsible people. You look at what he's done with the border. It's disaster, with the kind of disasters of disaster. And this doesn't make people happy. So what does make a person happy? Actually, the exact opposite. By saying, no, I am a responsible person. I am a person that makes a difference. And this is something that you see in Israel. It's very beautiful. Israelis, for whatever reason, they're mature. They take responsibility for their lives. They don't ask other people for favors and for handouts. An Israeli doesn't want you to give him a handout. He wants to make his own money. He wants to, even if he has to work hard or something like that, he's looking to be somebody, and the women as well. They're very strong women. They want to do the right thing. They, you know what I mean? They're good people. They're very, very good, and they're very grounded in the sense of personal responsibility, and they take responsibility for their children. And it's really an amazing thing. So I think there's a lot to learn. Maybe this merger between the Ashkenazic brain and the Sephardic work ethic. This is a healthy merger because every society, I think, brought from its, like the Ashkenazim lived with Esav. What does Esav ultimately want? He wants a vacation. That's what Esav wants. He doesn't want the responsibility. He wants to just chill out and retire. But the Sephardic Jews, they lived more kind of amongst the Arabs. And the Arabs, in a certain sense, for whatever reason, really want the pride. They want to be like that sense of accomplishment. They're looking for that very strongly. Because Esav maybe had the pride, so he didn't need the pride. He wanted to relax. And the Arabs had the shame, so they were looking for the pride. So ironically, the Jews of these countries assimilated certain character traits within. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we're Jews, and we have a sense of Hashem. But these things, as a merger, blend very well. That you don't have to be crazy about pride. Life shouldn't be about pride. You should have seichel. But at the same time, you should have pride in something that matters in your work. And that's why the Rebbe's whole thing is the person came to the Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I made a Chabad. The Rebbe said, great, make two. In other words, the Rebbe wanted us to take pride in the good things that we do. And in conclusion, it's very important to recognize that, and this is really, I think, the point of Tanya. It's a very, very, very deep point. It's a little bit of a subtle point. But the point of Tanya is, of course, that we have, I mean, apart from the idea that meditations of love and fear of Hashem and davening and self-discipline, mind, thought, and speech, but actions, But also, I think one of the deepest psychological point of the Tanya is the idea, like he says in the first chapter, really plays it out in 53 chapters, that we have two souls. We have a godly soul and we have an animal soul. And why that point is very important is because what is happiness in the end of the day? Happiness is the expansion of self. So, for example, if I say to you, and wow, what do you gain by that? Let's say you gained $1 million, so what? There's like a certain sense of expansion. What would be if the opposite, you just lost $1 million? Certain contraction. But the same thing could be in many things. It's gain and loss, pain and pride and pleasure. Pride and pleasure and gain are basically the same word. And loss and pain and sadness is basically kind of the same word. So it's a perception of myself expanding or contracting. In a way, it's like gain or loss. And now a healthy person seeks gain. It would be only somebody that's sick in a way seeks their own loss. Anything that's healthy seeks, like we were saying the other day in a class, everything seeks its perpetuation and its expansion. So the story is that as long as we love ourselves and we include in ourselves every single desire that we have. So if I love chicken, what about more chicken and better chicken and this and that? But the story is that we could have a situation that there are parts of ourselves that we should love and expand. There's parts of ourselves that we should hate and not expand. We should actually get rid of that part of ourselves. And this is really the idea of the Tanya, that we're a composite of both good and bad. And when a person understands this, you say, okay, what is the good in me? The good in me is the God in me. And I want that to expand. So basically a God-based ego is very healthy. That's a good type of ego to have. Now, a ego based on my what we would call a body-based ego is unhealthy, because what does the body want? The body wants fame, and it wants pleasure, and it wants whatever. It doesn't want to be uncomfortable. That's what you find a lot in the West. That's not a healthy drive. So if you can realize that you're a mix of these two elements, the element of God, which is the element of goodness and the Torah, and basically, thinking things through and acting on your mind, as a friend of mine says, please consult your mind. And you're a composite of a body. And what does the body want? The body wants pleasure and no pain, and fame and no shit. That's basically what the body wants. So if you're going to be stuck in your body's desires, you got a big problem, because anybody can come around and shame you. And then now you've just become the servant of 7 billion people. Or if you can get beyond the body and say, well, actually, I despise that. That's not the way a human being. That's like how a low creature will live. I am godliness. Godliness is using the Torah, using the mind, using Mashiach, using the Rebbe. That's how I go. And then if you expand yourself in that dimension, that's a good thing to experience. So this is really what the Tanya is trying to teach us, is that separate yourself between these dimensions. L'chaim v'lebracha.